All right, so this is a video about the Holley infrared fuel sender unit being installed in a race car replica's GT40, and basically going to do the gauge setup and calibrate the gauge to the sending unit. It's an area hopefully that'll help people out, because I tried calling Holley to get some help with it. The guy I talked to basically said that it's not going to work, that these sending units don't work well in metal tanks like aluminum, I guess, or even steel, which is kind of funny because most tanks are made out of that. But the surface, he claimed, reflected, made the sensor reflect back on itself and threw it off. Wasn't very helpful. He told me to call Speedhut, which is the manufacturer of the gauge, to see what they say about calibrating everything and what order you should do it. Do you calibrate the sending unit first, the gauge first? I didn't know. Neither did he. So the guy at Speedhut, he wasn't very helpful either. He did try to help me though, and it looked like sounded like he was reading off of the instruction manual that I had, the same thing. And then he finally pointed me to a video, which was somewhat helpful. Anyway, long story short, I think I've got this figured out, and hopefully this will help you too. So the basic setup is, obviously we have our tank. This is where the sending unit would be in mine. Voltmeter, gauge, the actual sending unit that we'll be programming. And you have to have everything hooked up. So connect all the wiring, multiple power sources, grounds, the sending unit signal wire. All that should be connected and powered up before you start doing this programming. Obviously, you want to take your sending unit hole and take a measurement. Get a measurement of the bottom of your tank to where the sending unit is. Mine's about 5 3/4. Yours might be slightly different, but in these RCR 40s, they're all going to be pretty similar. It doesn't matter if you're running EFI or carburetor or anything like that. This is basically just the interaction between the sending unit and the gauge itself. So you take your measurement. What I did was I laid it out on the table here, and I got my distances to empty, my distance to full, and basically mounted the sending unit in a locked position. And I have a book here, and as you can see, as I move this book closer and closer, the voltage changes on the voltmeter. The distance to the sending unit is what changes the voltage, which is what moves the gauge. So the first thing you have to do is calibrate the voltage. The instructions that Holley provide, pretty much nothing on this page here is of use, except for maybe the wiring schematic and also the dip switch settings, which is the sensitivity of the gauge. And I will tell you this, for the calibration process, definitely use the fastest sending unit settings, the response settings, because as you're doing this, you don't want to have to wait for the sending unit to change voltage, because it takes forever on the slow setting, which is what they recommend for driving conditions. But in this case, before you even start, take your sending unit, and you can see you've got a bunch of buttons and different settings on here. There's dip switches over here to the left. Set those up so that you are on the fastest response. And then, of course, you'll be using the P1, P2, and P3 during the calibration sequences. So do yourself a favor and do that, so that as you're going through the process and you change the, quote, depth of the tank, basically what I did was I took a piece of aluminum. That was the one thing the guy from Holley said. He claimed that the reflective surface could be a problem. He suggested scuffing it up a bit, which I did. It dulls the aluminum down and hopefully makes it more accurate. So I put an aluminum plate on there to simulate the bottom of the tank, attached it to a nice thick book, and stood it up on end here, and I'll move that around as we go through the process. So first thing, calibrate voltage. You can see right now we've got 2.98 volts. That's irrelevant. That's just whatever the preset is from the factory. So the instructions that you do want to follow are on the back side of the Holley instructions, where it says Holley at the bottom, and up at the top it says classic instruments, sweep and programmable fuel gauge calibration. So these are the interesting points that you want. The voltage at empty, half tank, and full. And those are the voltages that you'll program into the sending unit, which I'm going to do right now. So the way you do that is follow the instructions. And basically you're starting with the empty position, which you want to be at 2.69 volts. So you push and hold this button down, the P1 button, until the LED goes out, and then you'll see a solid blue light. And now you see the voltage has changed. So that's what it's currently set at for the empty position. We want that voltage to read 2.69 volts, or at least as close as we can get. So I can't remember if it's P1 or P2 or P3. And this is obviously going down. So we don't want to go that way, so we use P3. And we'll start going up. And every time you push it, it looks like it maybe adds about 5 volts or so. And we want to be at 2.69. We're getting there. .58, 2.66, 2.71, 2.7. That's probably about as close as we're going to get. So now we hold down on the P1 button to set that in place. Wait till the LED goes out. Should get 3 red flashes, which we did. That indicates that it was saved. And now we go on to the half tank, which is green light, and basically do the same thing. So now the voltage says 2.7. We want it down to 1.6. So that should be the P2 button. To lower it. .66. That one's right on the money, so that's great. And we'll hold down the P1 button again to set that in. Hold it till the LED goes out. You get 3 red flashes, and now it goes to red. Red is our full position indicator. We want that at 0.63 volts. So here we go. Back down. I wonder if you can hold it down. Ah, you can hold it down. Stupid. See that? Learning as we go. 0.7, 0.67, 0.64. That's close enough. And that's going to be our full position voltage to the gauge. And we'll hold down on the P1 button to lock that in. Okay, LED went out, 3 red flashes. Now we have a green flashing light. So this takes us to our tank calibration. And this is where you're going to move your indicator book to the position that you're setting. So the first position is empty tank, which is where I have my book. And it should be flashing green. So you wait 10 seconds just to make sure that the sender's reading is stable. You hold down P1 until the LED turns off. Here we go. Bingo, 3 red flashes, that's locked in. So now we have a blue flashing light. That's for full tank position. So this is where, if you watch the voltage, it's going to change pretty dramatically. And that's what you want. If you had it set as if you were driving somewhere, it would take forever for that to change. And then you'd be setting it in the wrong place. And the same goes for when we finally calibrate the gauge. So I put the book to the full tank position. And we wait 10 seconds, and then we hold down the P1 until the LED turns off. There it goes. 3 red flashes indicates we're programmed. And that is pretty much it for calibrating the sending unit. So we should be at 0.66 volts in the full position, which we are. And if I move this book back to the empty position, it should go somewhere to about 2.69. And you can see how that voltage that went up pretty quick because we have it set to the fast response on the sending unit. So that helps us a lot. Now we're already set. We can start calibrating the gauge. So the gauge instructions, this side here, basically, again, you can pay attention to the wiring, get all your wiring correct, and then this is what we're working on here on the back side, manual calibration. Okay, so that's what you want to pay attention to there. That's really the only thing that you should be interested in. And basically you have a little trigger here that you can push. That's connected to the back of the gauge, and that's how you get into your calibration settings. So we're powered on. We're going to hold this down for about 12 seconds until the gauge sweeps. And then it'll go back to 1/8 of a tank and settle at 1/8 of a tank. There we go. There we are, 1/8 of a tank. So you push this, and every time you push it, it'll move another 1/8. And you take it all the way around until you're at the full setting. At that point, you hold the button for 2 seconds. Okay, and now the gauge will start to sweep back and forth between empty and full. And while it's doing that, you set up your, in my case, my book is at the empty position. So you wait until the needle sweeps down over to the E, and then you hold it for 2 seconds. There we go, it's at E, 2 seconds. And now what it'll do is it'll try to go to the empty position, which it's already in. So that's all set. Now we have to do the full calibration. So we'll move the book over to the full line. You can see the voltage change on the voltmeter should go to about 0.66 ultimately. It's not cooperating. Okay, so same procedure. We're going to hold this button down for 12 seconds. And there we go. It went to the 1/8 tank, and we're going to bump it around again to the full position. This is just to get it into the programming status, and then we're going to hold it down for 2 seconds, and it'll start to do the sweep. Okay, so now my book is at the full position, and so we wait until the sweep goes over to the F on the gauge. Now hold down for 2 seconds. That wasn't quite 2 seconds. Let's see what it does. It should try to go to full now. And there it goes. So it went to full. And that's pretty much it. Once you do that, it goes out of the programming mode and it's in the normal operating mode. So we're all programmed now. We should be all good. If I move this book back to the empty, you can see the voltage go up. That'll go all the way up to the 2.69 for an empty position of the tank. You can see the needle's already starting to sweep. What I've found is that the gauge is actually pretty darn slow. When you set the sending unit back to the normal driving position, which is a slow response, they're both pretty similar. But the gauge is very slow to respond. So that's a good thing when the tank's going lower. Anyway, I think that's it. I hope this wasn't too boring, but it seems to work for me, and hopefully it saves you guys a lot of trouble. And good luck with your fuel tank and your sending unit setup. Thanks for watching.